All right, hello. I'm Spriteguard, and I am going to be taking you through one of my favorite games. This is a game called Every Extend. It was a freeware game, came out in 2004, and there were two sequels, but this one has always been my favorite, and it's one of the most interesting high score games I've played, and so I wanted to walk through what getting a high score in this game involves. We're going to look at some replays, and then um, and then I'm going to try to get a PB. And this is a very, very random game, and so I don't actually expect to get a PB, but we're going to give it a shot because that's kind of that. A lot of what this is going to be about as well is about running very high RNG games. So I'm going to start up my old PB from last year to go over a little bit about what the game is. And this is a very scuffed record that I got. So in this game, you play as this cross thing, and you have one action, which is to blow yourself up. And when you do that, it creates these chain reactions with these blocks. Now, if a block hits me, I will lose 5 seconds off the timer and 1 stock. And what I'm looking for is setting up long combos, and then I'm looking for these pink boxes called Quicken items. And when I pick those up, those increase the pace of the game, they increase the spawn rate, and they have some other effects later on in the game. And so they form a pretty big part of the mid-game strategy. This game is kind of divided into 3 parts. There's the early game, which is the first 5 Quicken items you pick up. And then after you get the 5th one, when you get the 6th, they stop spawning, but you actually need 7 or 8 in order to get the true final boss, which is necessary for getting a high score. And so here I got 7. 8 is ideal, and we'll talk about why that is a little bit later. And so here, what I'm trying to do, I got a very good max chain. These things, I refer to them as barrels. They're really like mini bosses. They drop time extends. Time is the most precious resource in this game. It is very rare to run out of lives, because you usually run out of time first, because of that 5-second penalty, and because of some other ways of losing time. Now right there, I did something that I'm going to be doing in a lot of these, is I set up a chain. I placed myself just right so that I would get a very slow chain of explosions that move across the screen. And that's what I'm always looking for, and I want them to end near the center because they drop these items that are worth points. And the more of these little bonus point things I pick up, the more each one is worth. So this is the true final boss. This only comes up if you're on a really good run. And the normal boss is like this big, loud, warning, warning kind of thing. And so the first time you get this boss, it is kind of mind-blowing that it just goes quiet. There's a totally different transition. So I came in with a little more than 1.1 million points, which is a pretty good pace. But I struggled a lot on the boss. I had a lot of these missed shots, which are in some ways worse than a penalty, because you lose your time, you lose the blocks, and it's just, you don't get much for it except for points. The first 2 phases of the boss are easy. That's easy in big old scare quotes, because this is one of the hardest bosses I have beaten in any game. And you can see I was struggling a lot here to set up a shot. everything in this game is random. The positions of the blocks are random. Their speed and direction is random. Here they only move horizontally, but this is a very hard phase with a lot of bullets bouncing around randomly. But you can also set up very long combos, and so what I did here is I set up a combo that was so long, I was able to respawn. Now this phase is the hardest phase in the game. I need a 40-hit combo in order to do damage to the boss at all, otherwise it resets. Right there, the boss moves towards you. That was the most lucky thing I've ever had, is the explosion went around the map and hit the boss. I thought for sure when it moved up close to me that it was going to... that I was going to lose, and I just got very lucky that the explosion went around instead of going straight there. And so I got a very large combo, and I got some really good scores, and so this run that was not very good ended up being a PB because of some very lucky shots. Now, even though this game is very random, you actually have a lot of control, because you can decide where the explosion starts, and you can decide when it starts. And so you have to watch the board and predict when is going to be the right organization. You have to spot the setups that you need, position yourself correctly. So this is my most recent PB that I got a couple of weeks ago while I was practicing. And this is more in line with what you see in really high quality, high score runs. So it starts out basically the same. I'm getting these quickens. I'm setting up combos. It is possible to set up big combos in the early game. Here I actually got one. You know, it has to be available, and there I wanted that combo to continue, but I was a little bit early. So you can see that the timing of your explosions is very important. Now, the best I've had when I hit 3 quickens is close to 200,000, but 100,000 is a fine pace. The early game doesn't matter that much. But we're coming up on the 6, which is the most crucial part of the first half of the game, and it's the beginning of the mid-game. And here I got what I call a good 6. It's moving slowly, it's near the edge, and then I got a good 7. I knocked them in the wrong direction. They always go in the opposite direction of where they get hit. And so I had to wait till the very last moment to hit them so that that 8th quicken item would spawn. Now I got the 8th quicken item early enough that 3 of these barrel things appeared instead of just 2. And each of them give you 10 seconds, and they come roughly once every 30 seconds. And so if you are playing efficiently, you can do what I call barrel chaining, where you get 30 seconds added to the clock every 30 seconds. And I did get some penalties there where I got hit, so I got 5 seconds knocked off the clock, but I still managed to get, I believe, 5 mini-boss waves out of this. And so I'm playing pretty conservatively at this point because I know that I'm in a good position to get one of these chains, but that's the one place we're running out of stock really matters, because you're keeping the timer up this whole time, but the amount of points you need to get extra stock keeps increasing with every one that you get, and so you have to really save your stock and make sure that you're using them efficiently, and make sure that you are using them when you will get enough points to replace them. because you do need a certain amount of stock for the boss. If you only have 7 quickens, there's actually like a minimum stock requirement to get to the true final boss. For 8 quickens, you get the true final boss no matter what. And so one of the most important strategies in this game is what I call quicken herding, where you try to hit the quickens in directions that are going to put them in good places. So here, another thing I'm doing, I'm trying to set up combos where the bonus items will drop in the middle of the screen, but the main thing I'm doing is I'm playing for survival, because I know I have this chain going. And I was actually streaming to Discord while I was doing this practice run, and this is about the point where I was like, I'm on a really good pace, y'all should be watching. I got so excited. I was starting to get nerves here because this is the longest chain I've ever gotten. And so the 6th wave spawned, but a little bit too late. If I had not taken that penalty earlier in the game, I might have been able to continue the chain. So 2.4 million going into the boss is an excellent score. And so here again, I'm playing for survival. I just want to close this out because I know it's going to be a PB as long as I don't lose. But it's also feeding me pretty good combos on the first 2 phases, which is, it can be hit or miss. The spawn rate on the first 2 phases isn't great. And, I'm pretty nervous because I'm taking these penalties that could very well end it. And just hit the boss by a frog's hair. This is the place where most of my runs die, so I'm playing very conservatively. I'm throwing away a lot of stock to try and make sure that I don't get the wrong number of hits in the combo. This is another place, I would say like 99% of the runs that get to Colosseum die. And what I noticed is that I had enough time to do a death abuse strategy, where I die right before the boss moves, so that I can respawn in the best place possible. And there, I wanted to end it, and I took a hit on the boss. I didn't know how many stock I had. And so when I took a hit on that final phase, I was like, oh, please, please, please. And so I took a very short combo on the final phase, which didn't end up mattering because even before my chain bonus, it was a PB. And so that was good. That's the best run I've ever gotten. This is the world record. This is 5.6 million, and so this is the cleanest every extend play you're gonna see. It is very precise. It is, I think I've described it as surgical. This player is just so able to place themselves exactly where they need to be. And I believe they take no penalties this whole time. And so here they're setting up a big combo. Big combos in the early game are pretty risky. They require a certain amount of luck. But if you can get them, you can go into the mid-game with a higher score, which is always good. And I don't know what their PB was before they got this run, and so they may have been point pressing pretty aggressively. Like if their PB was already over 5 million, then that early game stuff may have been really important to them. I don't really know. Not a lot is known about the world record holder. So here they got an interesting setup. They got the 5 and the 6. Or no, the 6 and the 7 on the edge. Very good quick and hurting here. is they got it right on the edge and hit it in the direction directly away from the edge. And so that gives you the most time to wait for the 8th Quicken to spawn. Now here they got the early wave, so they were able to get that triple boss that's required to get the chain. And so now they're trying to preserve their chain, not take any penalties, not lose too much stock, while still making sure that they are getting those time-up items and clearing these boss waves quickly enough that the next one will spawn before the timer runs down too much. And so I believe that was their second wave. I haven't ever counted how many they got. I got 5. And so it'll be interesting to see how many they get. So here's their third, I believe. I'm not completely confident in that, so if chat's counting better than me, let me know. So you can see this game involves a lot of watching and waiting, which is one of the things that I love about it. It's a game where you're not doing that much, you're waiting for the right opportunity, and then you have, a fraction of a second to take advantage of that opportunity. And it reminds me of this Buddhist book that I really like, called the Mumonkan. And one of the ways that the author describes Zen Buddhism is like a horse racing past a window. And that's, I think, kind of the feeling that I get from this, of like, there's just this moment, and you have to be prepared for that moment to come. And I have completely lost count of how long this chain was. I want to say 4 or 5 at this point, but still going strong. And they're spending some stock to make sure that they get those waves. I believe they must have been pretty confident, because they spend their stock really, really far down to get this run. Usually when I hit like 5 stock, I start playing very conservatively, but this player is really confident in their ability to get extra stock on the boss and to not miss too many shots. And so this is something that, I aspire to, but, in the 14 years that I've been playing this game, not, like, constantly playing, but, I picked this up while I was in college in 2007, I think. And so playing it off and on, I've gotten pretty good at it, but I haven't gotten this good, and this is awe-inspiring to watch. It's so clean, and it's so precise. And all of these bonus items are dropping, and they're picking all of them up. And they're cutting it so close. And so there, they finally ended their chain. They didn't have enough time for that last boss wave to arrive. And so they go into the boss with a higher score than I had at the end. And now here, it's difficult to get a good combo on this first wave. And so they're going to set up the best one they can. That was pretty solid. That's about the best you can expect from the first phase. The first two phases are very similar. The boss just has a different shot pattern. And the item spawns are very similar to normal gameplay. This phase is very feast or famine. My experience is you either get like a 4 combo or like 50, 60 or more. I think I got a 90 combo there once. Now, I don't remember if they use Death Abuse here or if they just use very precise positioning. Is just positioning. Okay, so that's what I call a chain require. What happens there is you have to hit the boss with a certain length of combo. And so that was very nice. They found exactly the moment to do that when it was going to spread out before it came into the boss. And so that gets a lot more explosions into the combo before it reaches the boss. And then with that final phase, you want to get as good of a combo as you can, but the combo ends as soon as you touch the boss. And so it can be pretty difficult to set that up. But that is peak play in this game. And that was a surprisingly long run, for a game with a 2.5-minute timer to go for, I'm not even sure how long that was, like 10 minutes or more. So this is the level of play that I aspire to. But what you're going to see now is kind of the reality behind those runs.
Every extent.
And so I am going to be attempting to get a new PB. And I'll be walking you through kind of some of the ways that things go wrong, because I think those can be as interesting as the ways that things go right. So here, that Quicken was moving a little too fast for me to set up a quick combo. I'm watching for the second. This one, again, not really giving me a lot of combo opportunities. And so, ooh, that was a penalty. I thought I could get out of there, and I got myself into a position that I was a little bit overconfident about my ability to squeeze through. And so, an early penalty like that, I will often reset, because in a game with this much RNG, oftentimes just getting to the next attempt is going to get you farther than trying to play out an attempt that is scuffed like that. I'm gonna play it out, this one out a little bit, because I want to show a little bit more about what goes on. This is what I call a bad 6. It was moving very fast across the middle of the screen, and so I don't have any way of keeping it on screen for very long. And so we're going to have to go with 7, which is less than 8. And so now we need 800,000 points for the boss to spawn. Volume warning, if the correct boss does not spawn, it's pretty abrasive. And so I try to keep the game volume pretty low, but it's something that, so there it is. So this is the normal boss. You have way fewer options for scoring. There's just less going on here, and so I'm going to reset. I usually reset as soon as I see that warning screen, because I know that that boss is not going to be what I need.
Every extent.
And so this can turn into a pretty long grind. And I mentioned Zen Buddhism a little bit earlier as something that I've studied fairly intensely, and something that I bring to my gameplay. For me, there is a spiritual dimension to playing games. And so this game is... it has this quality of you have to play it for its own sake. Because this game is so random, you don't know when it's going to give you the opportunities that you need. And the more skilled you are, the more you can take advantage of weaker scoring opportunities, but you're still dependent on the game. You have to be playing the game at a pretty high level for a long time until you get the good RNG, and then you have to capitalize on that. And so there really is this element of, like, if you're waiting for a PB, it's not going to happen. You have to just be playing the game for the sake of playing the game. And so it creates this kind of enforced mindfulness. This is another bad 6. Pretty good 7, though. I might try to bait out an 8. There it is. Bad 8, though. It outran my combo. So we're pretty good. 2.6 is pretty good for getting the 7th quicken. I think I'm going to try for the 800. Oh, never mind. Not if I get a penalty. So there's going to be a whole lot of resetting.
Every extent.
And then, once we get to the boss, we need to get to the boss and then not succumb to nerves. And so that's where having that very calm attitude of playing to play is really important. Because if you're thinking like, oh gosh, this is a PB, this is a PB, then you're going to have nerves. And at the end of my run, you could kind of see that. I started to make some mistakes, and I started playing just to end the run, rather than to continue it. And that's something that I still am working to overcome. But until then, I love this game. And I love the way that it grounds me in the moment and takes away my expectations. And all I have is what's in front of me. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch. I'm not thinking about that thing that I said that I shouldn't have said. All I'm doing is I'm watching and waiting. That was a big risk, but it paid off. I got a big combo and still managed to pick up the 3rd quicken item. And I've put a lot of practice into being able to talk while I'm playing this game, and it is really like there's almost no communication between the two sides of me. It's like I'm watching myself play. I've described it as this is the only game that I can play by feel. And I don't mean like tactile feel, I mean like I have a sense for this game. Add 6. It's like I can see what's going to happen, how combos are going to go, where my character is going to be. So that was a 7. So that was a late 8. and a penalty. So we're not going to get a chain, but we should be able to get a true final boss. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll try to send part of the explosion to one direction and the other part in the other direction. And what that does is it extends the chain so that the stuff in the middle of the screen explodes last, and the stuff that explodes last tends to drop more. So this is a pretty bad pace. This is 600,000. So this is not PB pace, but every attempt on the boss is a good attempt because it's so difficult to get here, it takes so long to get here, and it's so fun. And this part takes, even more concentration to the point that I sometimes cannot talk. Ooh, 29. That's unlucky. And something that my parents brought me up with that has been incredibly helpful with this is the idea that this will be a story. Is kind of how I phrase it. Is the idea, when something bad would happen, my parents will say, in 5 years this will be a story. Sounds like some people have a sense for Tetris. Yes, it is very similar to that. Looking at this game, it seems there are sequels. Have you played those? Yes, I played Every Extend Extra. I was not a fan. It did some really cool things, but it had they made a couple of design decisions that took this really amazing game and made it not fun. And it's kind of that category of game that I describe as almost really good. It's those games where they just made one or two design decisions that ended up just making it so that I could not enjoy the game. The things that I really like about Extra, the art is beautiful. It's a lot of shader art. There's more boss variety. There's multiple bosses. It is structured more like an arcade game, where there's wave boss, wave boss, wave boss, and you try to go for a 1 credit clear, that kind of thing. And so, it really is, in one sense, exactly what I wanted, in that it is this game but longer and more varied. Really good early game combo there. Too bad that fuse did not connect with anything, but that was still really good. Alright, this is 5, I need to concentrate. Good 6. Ooh, that fuse, I should not have started that combo. That fuse knocked my 6 in the wrong direction. And so we're only going to get a 7 here, but this is a decent pace. So I will take it. Sometimes you can get some pretty good scores with a 7 because the mid-game requirement is so strict. But you only get 2 of these time extends on each wave, which is not enough to keep a chain going. I do have quite a bit of extra stock here, so I should try to spend that stock
Extend.
and try to set up some combos. I'm getting some really excellent combos here. This is, you know, despite the mistakes, this is a pretty good run. Those penalties are going to really impact my final score, but I'm staying in the game, which is really good. This is... it's working out. It's working out. $1 million into the boss is real solid. I will play that out for sure. It's, you know, it's not PB pace, but it's not PB pace. Just need to get some good combos here, get a good combo on Pincer. So I did something there that I call a double shot. I actually got a triple shot there, where I get the combo running for so long that I'm able to respawn and restart the combo. So this is a pretty common place for runs to die, just because these shots bounce so randomly, and I tend to run the clock down, and the chain requirement is pretty high. You played extra a little, but don't remember enough about it to compare it to this. So, yeah, so I was talking about how good extra is, how many good things it does, and it does two or three things that ended up just making it not enjoyable for me personally. I have talked to other people for whom this was not an issue. The biggest one is that when you get a penalty in extra, you lose your quickens. You drop them more like you would drop your power-ups in a more conventional shmup. And that can be very frustrating, especially if you take a hit near the edge of the screen, which is very common because you have less time to react. Some of your quicken items can just go off screen, and then you have less material to work with at that point. They also made some user experience decisions that I deeply disagree with. One is that the menus are slow. You have to wait. I really like in a game when I can press, like, menu... a lot of games I play, I press start down A really quickly. And in a lot of games, that will reset you in a single movement. In every Extend Extra, you have to wait for each menu to load. Thank you for the raid. And then the third decision, I think, is the least impactful on the gameplay, but also the one that I find the most upsetting. And that is that there is a mode where you can play individual levels, and it could be a practice mode, except that you only unlock a level once you beat it in the arcade mode. So you don't have the ability to practice individual levels until you don't need the practice. And I am a game designer, I am a game developer, not by profession, but as a hobby, and I have some very strong opinions about user experience design. and the ability for the player to practice and to reset quickly.
J. Quicken.
And so the games that I make, the things that I aim for is some way of very freely exploring and practicing the game,
Quicken.
and a 1-frame reset is the ideal that I go for. Oh, that one outran me. I can feel my concentration slipping a little bit, so I'm going to take a moment to grab some water, to take a step back, look around the room, remind myself where I am, what I'm doing, and what's at stake, which is nothing. Nothing is at stake here. And that's something that's very easy to forget when you get really caught up in achievement gaming. Because I love this game, I love playing this game, and, even if this game didn't have a score, I would probably still enjoy playing it. And, thinking that there's something at stake, getting caught up in putting a lot of meaning on the score is what creates nerves. And it's what creates salt. And so one of the concepts that I use when I'm speedrunning or when I'm doing a score run is winning the emotional game, which is the idea that part of winning the game is adapting to the emotional pressures that the game puts on you. And so I have a lot of techniques that I use that are specifically about controlling my emotions. And about winning that emotional game. And one of the things I think about sometimes is, the game is trying to get a reaction out of me, and if I react, I lose, which doesn't really work for bullies. They always tell you, oh, just don't react. But for video games, it does. It really does. So that advice ended up being useful somewhere in my life. Looks like I have about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to go into a little bit of focus mode here and see, what I can put together
J.
with full concentration.
Extend.
This early part doesn't actually require a ton of concentration,
J. Quicken.
so I might
Extend.
be able to talk about stuff through this part, but gear switching becomes a problem. I am autistic,
Quicken.
and part of the way that manifests for me is that changing the way that I'm thinking, changing the way that I'm interpreting a situation takes a very long time. And so that can be something as simple as, I thought I was going to the grocery store, but actually I'm going to the post office. Can be kind of a painful change. And so where that comes into play in this game
Every extend.
is if I'm trying to commentate and chat during the first half of the game, then I have to perform a gear shift into full concentration for the second half of the game.
Quicken.
So we're going to see how that goes.
Every extend. Get ready.
There, I violated one of the cardinal rules of every extend, is don't go near the top or bottom. Because the top and the bottom, you have no warning for when stuff
Get
is
ready.
approaching. Thanks for dropping by. Good to see you.
Every extend. Get ready. Stay. Quicken. Stay.
It took me a really long time to figure out what Goniodse was,
Quicken.
but I love it now. It is good and nice.
Every extend. Get ready. Stay. Quicken. Stay.
Couldn't quite connect on that combo.
Quicken. Steady.
Taking a risk there by doing an early combo.
Quicken.
That was so late that it was almost bad, but it worked. And working is the main thing that we care about.
Steady. Quicken.
Ooh, that did not work.
Every extend. Get ready. Stay.
Okay, pretty good use of that fuse.
Quicken. Stay. Quicken.
Managed to get ahead of that fast quicken.
Quicken.
You can't hit those from behind, you have to get ahead of them.
Steady. Quicken.
There's 4. If anyone has any lingering questions, I would love to answer any that I can. Ooh, that was not fortunate. There's a 7. Get this 6 as late as possible, which means breaking rule 1. And it looks like that did not pay off. We still only got 7.
Stay. Stay.
So I'm going to be going for as big of a combo as I can. But it's always better to explode yourself than to take a penalty. So if you find yourself cornered, it's always good to develop a reaction, a reflex to set yourself off if you see that you're cornered. So here I'm going to do an out and in. That drops a lot of stuff in the middle and gets a longer chain because it goes both outwards and inwards. It does drop some stuff off screen, but that's kind of going to be inevitable. The amount of score you get from those pickups is quadratic. The value of each one increases linearly, so the more you pick up, the higher your score will be. I had a technical malfunction there.
Stand.
Ooh, only 20, okay. Yeah, that's not going super well. I'm gonna reset there because I don't want the results
Every
screen.
extend.
The results screen is slow.
Get ready.
And you cannot quick reset out of the results screen.
Stay.
So if you can tell you're about to run out of time, it's good to quick reset before you do.
Stay. Stand. Stay. Quicken. Stand.
So it looks like I am getting down to the end of my segment. So it's looking like today may not be the day.
Stand.
Most days are not the day, and that's fine, because I love this game and I play it to play. Because this game forces me to be right in the moment.
Quicken.
And that's something really, really valuable to me. Okay, 6. Not the best, not the worst. Pretty good 7.
Stay. Extend. Quicken.
Bad 8, but I got it.
Quicken. Quicken.
Was it early enough? Yes.
Stand.
Oop.
Stand. Stand.
One common thread across so many high score games is you have to take risks. And usually those risks don't pay off, but taking them is how you put yourself in the position to be ready for them whenever they do work out. It was good until it wasn't. And I'm looking at the clock. I think that's the last one that I'm going to have time for, so I want to say thank you so much to the Edge Case Collective for putting this on and for letting me do this. Thank you everyone who came, whether to lurk or to chat. You all mean a lot to me. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.